was a day when the rain fell lightly and gray clouds covered the sky. Fred and his family were driving home. The raindrops trickling down the windows looked like tears. People walked quickly down the streets, no one looking around, no one noticing life's little miracles in this rainy weather. But Fred's eyes were different. He was a little boy, his heart full of love and compassion. And at that moment he saw a scene that would change his life. There was a tiny, trembling dog by the side of the road. Its fur was soaking wet, its eyes wide and full of fear. At that moment, it was as if the whole world had fallen silent. Fred's eyes locked onto this poor dog. Its small body was trembling on the wet ground, looking as if it were saying, "Save me." Fred's heart tightened. An irresistible urge rose within him. He immediately turned to his mother and father. "Please, let's take him. He's so cold, so lonely." At first his mother and father were silent. His father gripped the steering wheel tightly, his mother took a deep breath. Because they knew, taking in a dog was not easy. It required responsibility, it required patience. "Our house is already full, maybe we can't take care of this dog," they said. But when they saw the tears in Fred's eyes, the trembling of his lips, how his heart ached, they couldn't resist. It was impossible to resist their child's pure love. Dad pulled the car over to the side of the road. Mom took off her jacket and wrapped it around the little dog. The dog was scared, trembling, but when Fred's little hands stroked its head, it calmed down. At that moment, an indescribable happiness blossomed inside Fred. Because he was no longer alone. When they got home they realized the dog had a fever. It was weak and exhausted. They took it to the vet. The vet said, "It needs some rest, love and trust." He gave them medicine. The little dog was wrapped in a warm blanket. At that moment Fred snuggled up next to him and whispered, "You're not alone anymore. Your name is Coco." It was as if Coco understood those words. He wagged his tiny tail weakly. A small glimmer of hope replaced the fear in his eyes. At that moment, an invisible but very strong bond was formed between Fred and Coco. Days passed. Coco began to recover. The poor dog that had trembled in the rain was now the joy of the house. In Fred's room there were food bowls, toys and colorful blankets that belonged to her. With his mother's permission, Fred even dressed Coco in his old baby clothes. Running around in little blue, red and yellow dresses, Coco seemed to be laughing. Life had completely changed for Fred. When he opened his eyes in the morning, the first thing he saw was Coco. At breakfast he would secretly pass her pieces of cheese and bread. They would run together in the garden and sleep together at night. As Fred fell into a deep sleep in his bed, Coco would curl up at his head and never take her eyes off him throughout the night. But this story was a miracle not only for Fred but also for Coco. Because Coco was a dog left alone in the rain, perhaps even abandoned. He was a puppy who had given up on life, trusting no one. But thanks to Fred he had found love, trust and happiness again. Now he too had a family. Over time Fred and Coco became inseparable friends. They ate from the same bowl and slept on the same pillow. When Fred came home from school, Coco would be waiting at the door, wagging his tail as if to say, "Welcome home." When Fred was sad, Coco would rest his head on his lap and comfort him without saying a word. Because friendship is a bond stronger than words. Fred could no longer imagine life without Coco. And one day he said to his mother, "Mom, he's not just a dog. He's my brother." His mother smiled. Because Coco had truly become a member of that family. This journey, which began with a raindrop, had turned into a friendship that grew with the power of love. Coco and Fred's story reminds us that sometimes a small act of kindness can turn into a lifetime of happiness. A stray dog comes back to life only with love and trust. And the pure hearts of children can create the greatest miracles in the world. Fred and Coco's story was just such a miracle. They were no longer just a child and a dog. They were two souls whose hearts beat in unison. The purest, most innocent moments in life are often hidden in the bonds formed between children and animals. These friendships, where neither judges the other, loves without expecting anything in return, and brings peace to each other simply by their presence, create stories that touch the human heart. The story of Rex and Amelia was exactly such a story. When Amelia opened her eyes to the world, the first eyes to greet her at home were Rex's, with his shiny fur and big brown eyes. At that moment, an invisible bond was formed between them. Rex, who spent his mornings by Amelia's crib, became her friend who was the first to comfort her when she cried and the first to share her joy when she smiled and reached out her hand. As Amelia grew, so did Rex. When Amelia was learning to walk, Rex would be there to prevent her from falling when she lost her balance. When she fell while running and playing in the garden, Rex would immediately rush to her side, his affectionate gaze encouraging her to get back up. The years the two spent together were almost like a fairy tale. Amelia's childhood was filled with Rex's presence. In the evenings before Amelia fell asleep, Rex would curl up beside her, and they would drift off to sleep together. These two friends, finding peace in hearing each other's breath, gradually became inseparable. For Amelia, Rex was not just a dog. He was her closest friend, confidant, and protector. But life doesn't always proceed with the same calmness. One day, when Amelia was still a small child, there was a commotion at home. Rex was pregnant. Although the family was happy about this, for Amelia this change was a difficult process to understand at first. Time passed, Rex gave birth healthily, and 5 little puppies came into the world. The puppies changed the atmosphere of the house, bringing joy and excitement. However, this happiness began to cast shadows over Amelia's world. Because Rex now spent all her time with her puppies. She fed them, cleaned them, protected them, never leaving their side for a moment. Amelia felt she had lost the attention that used to be hers. Rex's constant attention to the puppies caused great hurt in Amelia's heart. The friend she had shared every moment with until that day no longer played with her, slept beside her, or looked at her. With her tiny heart, Amelia felt this situation as being abandoned. One day her hurt turned to anger. She quietly left her room and wandered away from home. Her little feet led her to a hidden corner behind the garden. She hid there and cried, thinking that her friend, who had been by her side for days, had now forgotten her, filled Amelia with a deep loneliness. Of course, those at home found Amelia and brought her back shortly, but she seemed unable to forgive Rex's indifference. Do you think it was a mistake for Amelia to leave home? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Rex was so caught up in his puppy's excitement that he was slow to notice Amelia's hurt feelings. But as time passed, the sadness in Amelia's eyes, her reluctance to play, and her silence tugged at Rex's heart. His love for his puppies was immense, but his bond with Amelia was no less. He had grown up with Amelia, become her friend, and made a silent vow to her. And now he realized he had left his friend alone. One evening, after putting his puppies to sleep, Rex slowly approached Amelia. The little girl was still sulking, averting her eyes. But Rex gently laid his head on Amelia's lap. His eyes seemed to say, "Forgive me, I never wanted to leave you." At that moment, the resentment in Amelia's heart began to melt away. She stroked Rex's head with her small hands, tears streaming down her cheeks, whispering, "I missed you so much." That was the moment they were reunited. Rex remembered the promise he had made to Amelia, to always be by her side, to love her no matter what. Amelia also understood that Rex's puppies had not diminished his love for her. She just needed to share it a little. After that day, Amelia began spending time with Rex's puppies. She played games with them, held their tiny paws in her hands, and they laughed and had fun together. Rex learned to show his love equally to both his puppies and Amelia. He no longer slept alone as before. Instead, they ran around the garden together and played games. This process taught Amelia an important lesson. Love does not diminish when shared. On the contrary, it multiplies. Rex learned to strike a balance between friendship and responsibility. Thus, the bond between them grew even stronger. Even years later, when Amelia remembered her childhood, Rex was always the first thing that came to mind. Their friendship became an unforgettable story for the family. Because this story was not just about the friendship between a girl and a dog. It was also a journey that taught the meaning of forgiveness, sharing, and true love. And perhaps that is why, whenever Amelia looked up at the sky, she always whispered the same sentence deep in her heart. Rex, you are my best friend. Forever. It was